My name is Chloe, and I was 14 when my parents split up. It wasn't a big, dramatic breakup like in the movies. No yelling or tossing clothes out of windows. Just two people who chose that they could not continue together. Dad moved to a different state. Mom began dating again pretty quickly. That's how Richard came into our lives. Richard looked nice at the beginning. He worked at a big company, wore nice clothes, and made my mom smile. But the way he looked at me made me feel uneasy from the very first day. Not in a strange way. Bad in a critical way. It felt like I was a problem he had to solve. Your daughter might need some help, I heard him say to Mom one evening about a month after he moved in. She's at a tough age. I stood in the hallway and I remember how my stomach turned when Mom said, "I know, I'm really happy you're here to help." But it didn't help. It was criticism disguised as care, given with a smile that didn't really show any warmth. It began with small comments about my clothes or my hair. Then it got worse. I remember the first time he really touched my heart. It was at dinner around 6 months after he and Mom got married. I had on new jeans that I got with my allowance. "Those jeans are feeling a little snug on you, right, Chloe?" Richard said, stopping his fork in the air halfway to his mouth. "You're getting bigger so quickly," he said. Then he said quietly but loud enough for me to hear, "Wider, mainly." I felt my face get hot as tears almost came out. "They should fit like this," I said. "Oh, sweetie," Mom said quickly. "Richard is just worried about how you are doing. Sometimes teenagers just don't see these things." That was how it went. Richard would say something mean, pretend it was caring, and Mom would support him every time. When I tried to explain how his comments affected me, she would shake her head and say I was too sensitive. "You have to learn to take a joke, Chloe," she'd say while Richard sat there with his annoying little smile. "He just wants to help you." I began to call Dad more frequently after that. My Skype calls were very important to me. He would listen to me, truly listen, without trying to justify Richard's actions or saying I was overreacting. He paid alimony on time, and I found out later that it was quite a lot. But money couldn't solve the problems at home. My life changed a lot when my half-brother came into the world. I was 17, trying to concentrate on my last year of high school, while our home changed into a place that celebrated Richard's ideal family, without me, of course. Mom was really focused on the baby. I understand. He was small and adorable and needed a lot of care. It felt like I turned invisible all of a sudden. People only seemed to pay attention to me when something bad happened. I accidentally woke the baby when I closed my bedroom door too loud. I thought Richard would get worse after the baby was born and find more ways to criticize me. But something surprising happened. He began to travel for work a lot. Those business trips really helped me a lot. The house felt better when he left, like I could finally breathe easy. Even Mom looked more calm, but she was still counting the days until he came back. Since Richard was gone a lot, my senior year was better than I thought it would be. I paid attention to my studies, became part of the yearbook committee, and began to make plans for college. Actual plans, not just dreams about getting away. On graduation day, Dad kept his promise and came to see me. He sat in the crowd, smiling with happiness, as I walked across the stage to receive my diploma. Mom was there too, with the baby and Richard. I searched the crowd for Dad's face. After the ceremony, Dad took me to the side. "I really meant what I said earlier, Chloe," he said to me, putting his hands on my shoulders. "You can choose any college you like. I will do it. You deserve it." I had sent applications to a few colleges, hoping that one would say yes to me. They all did, and I was surprised. But I knew just the one I wanted, the one in Dad's city. far enough so I wouldn't need to come home a lot, but near enough to someone who really cared about me. I waited until dinner to tell Mom and Richard. We sat at the table. Mom was giving my brother food while Richard talked about how bad the airline food was from his recent trip. "I got accepted to all the colleges I applied to," I said during a quiet moment. "I'm going to accept the offer from Marshall University." Mom paused with the baby spoon midair. That's where your father lives, isn't it?" I nodded, bracing myself for their reaction. "Well," Richard said, that familiar mocking smile spreading across his face, "looks like your father finally managed to do something useful with his life. Paying for college, who would have thought?" I gripped my fork so hard my knuckles turned white. The urge to yell back at him, to tell him exactly what I thought about his useful contribution to my life, was almost overwhelming. But I held my tongue. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose my cool. Mom let out a small sigh of what sounded suspiciously like relief. Maybe she was glad to finally have me out of the way. Free to focus on her real family without the complicated reminder of her previous marriage hanging around. The next morning, I packed everything I could fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. Mom was too busy with the baby to notice me hauling my bags downstairs. Richard had already left for work. Dad arranged for a car service to pick me up. By that evening, I was standing in front of his house. A beautiful 2-story colonial with a wraparound porch. It was so different from the cramped house I'd left behind. But it wasn't just the size that struck me. It was the warmth. Sarah, Dad's fiancée, was waiting at the door with him. She wasn't what I'd expected. She was younger than Mom, with bright red hair and paint-stained jeans. She gave me a huge hug like we were old friends. "We've got your room all set up," she said, grabbing one of my bags. "I hope you don't mind, but I might have gone a bit overboard with the decorating." The room was perfect. Peaceful blues and grays with a window seat overlooking the backyard. No baby crying. No Richard's critical comments. No walking on eggshells. Just peace. Mom called that night after she found my note. "You could have said goodbye properly," she said, sounding hurt. "Your brother was looking for you all day." "He's 2, Mom. He'll forget I was ever there soon enough." I spent those first few weeks settling into my new life, getting to know Sarah better. She was an art teacher at the local high school and had this way of making everyone feel comfortable. We'd stay up late sometimes, drinking hot chocolate and talking about everything and nothing. Despite Dad's offers to support me completely, I wanted to be independent. I found a job at the Daily Grind, a busy cafe near the house. It wasn't glamorous work, but I enjoyed it. The regular customers were nice, my coworkers were fun, and the tips were decent. When fall came, I moved into the dorms at Marshall University. My roommate, Jenny, was a music major from Chicago. She practiced violin at odd hours, but always brought me coffee when she came back from her early morning rehearsals. I was studying business administration and actually enjoying my classes, working at the cafe between lectures and study sessions. A year passed like this, and I was happy. Really happy. Until one ordinary Tuesday afternoon at the cafe changed everything. I was clearing tables when I heard a familiar laugh, one that made my stomach drop. There, at a corner table, was Richard. But he wasn't alone, and he definitely wasn't on a business trip. He was with a woman I'd never seen before. And they were kissing like teenagers on a first date. "Hey, Lisa," I whispered to my coworker, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Can you take table 12? I need to take my break." I ducked into the back room, my heart pounding. Through the small window in the door, I could still see them. My hands were trembling as I pulled out my phone and started recording. Richard was holding the woman's hand across the table now, looking at her the way he used to look at Mom in the early days. When they finally left, Lisa found me still hiding in the back. "What was that about?" she asked, looking concerned. "Did you know those people?" "The man?" I said carefully, "I know him. I just didn't want him to see me working here." "Do you know who the woman was?" Lisa's eyes lit up with gossip. "Oh my God, yes, that's Catherine Morrison. Everyone knows her. She's always in the local news for her charity work and business success." That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Richard kissing that woman kept playing in my mind like a bad movie. Around midnight, I grabbed my laptop and opened social media. My fingers trembled as I typed Catherine Morrison into the search bar. Her profile popped up immediately, verified checkmark and all. CEO of Richmond Technologies, I read aloud to myself in the darkness of my dorm room. This was the same company where Richard worked. Catherine Morrison wasn't just some woman he was seeing. She was his boss, the director of the entire company. He wasn't just having an affair. He was sleeping with his own superior. I scrolled down her timeline, and that's when things got worse. Much worse. There was Richard in photo after photo. Him at company events, always standing close to Catherine while other employees maintained a respectful distance. Him at what looked like vacation spots. Him holding a little boy, maybe around 3 years old, both of them grinning at the camera. The caption under one particularly painful photo read, "My 2 favorite men in the world. Can't wait to make it official soon. #blessed, #family, #engagement." I kept scrolling and the evidence kept mounting. There were photos going back years. Years. All those business trips Richard took. All those times Mom was home alone with my brother. He'd been building a whole separate life, complete with another child. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone as I started saving the photos one by one. I downloaded them all, including screenshots of the captions. There was Richard at what looked like the boy's birthday party. Richard and Catherine at Christmas dinner. Richard pushing the little boy on a swing. One photo in particular made me pause. It was from about 6 months ago, showing Richard, Catherine, and their son at some kind of carnival. The caption read, "Sometimes the perfect family comes when you least expect it. So thankful my Prince Charming was patient enough to wait for the right moment to start our family together. #DrewLove, #destined. Patient enough to wait. He hadn't been waiting. He'd been lying, living 2 completely different lives, juggling 2 families like some sick circus act. And based on Catherine's posts, she had no idea she was the other woman. She truly believed she found her fairy tale ending with her handsome subordinate who'd stolen her heart. I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. The Richard in these photos was so different from the man I knew. Here he was, smiling real smiles, not those smirks he always gave me. He looked happy. Genuinely happy. Playing with his secret son. Hugging his secret fiancée. Living his secret life. "Oh, Mom," I whispered to my empty room. "What has he done to us?" I checked the time. Almost 3:00 a.m. I had an early class tomorrow, but sleep was the last thing on my mind. I needed to make sure I had every bit of evidence saved. Mom would need to see this. The truth needed to come out, even if it was going to hurt everyone involved. A week later, I found myself on a train headed home. The evidence was still burning a hole in my phone, and my stomach was in knots. I hadn't told Dad where I was going. He wouldn't have understood why I needed to do this. Mom looked genuinely surprised when she opened the door. "Chloe, we weren't expecting you." My little brother was toddling around her legs, and for a moment it felt almost normal. Then Richard appeared behind them. "Well, well," he said, that familiar mocking tone already creeping into his voice. "Don't tell me you got kicked out of college for failing grades and need to come crawling back home." Mom laughed like it was the funniest joke she'd ever heard. "Richard, stop it. I'm sure Chloe's doing fine at school. Aren't you, honey?" I forced a smile. "I'm on the dean's list, actually." "Of course you are," Richard smirked, looking me up and down. "Say, those jeans keep getting bigger and bigger every time I see you. Is that the new style now? The baggy look?" I bit my tongue. I'd actually lost weight since starting college. All those shifts running around the cafe had toned me up considerably, but Richard never missed a chance to make digs about my appearance. The comments continued all day. Every time I moved, every time I spoke, Richard had something to say. When Mom served dinner, it got even worse. "Whoa there, Chloe," he exclaimed as I put some mashed potatoes on my plate. "Save some for the rest of us." I kept eating silently, watching him out of the corner of my eye. This man who sat here mocking me was the same one who'd been playing happy families with his boss just last week. The same man who had another child. Another life. "Honey," he turned to Mom with an exaggerated, concerned expression. "If Chloe's going to visit more often, we might need to invest in a second refrigerator." Mom giggled, gazing at him with such adoration it made my chest hurt. She really had no idea. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, loaded with proof of his betrayal. Should I show her? Looking at her face, so full of love for this man who'd been lying to her for years, I hesitated. After dinner, I headed upstairs to my old room, my mind still wrestling with what to do. But Richard's voice stopped me on the stairs. "Where do you think you're going?" I turned around, confused. "To my room." "Your room," he laughed. "That's my office now. We converted it months ago. Didn't your mother tell you?" Mom appeared in the hallway, bouncing my brother on her hip. "Oh, I forgot to mention it." "I can sleep on the couch," I offered, trying to keep my voice steady. Richard shook his head. "You'll be in the way. Better head back to campus tonight." I looked at Mom, waiting for her to disagree, to stand up for me, to offer some alternative. Instead, she just nodded. "Richard's right, sweetie. It would probably be better if you found somewhere else to stay tonight." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the way Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Or maybe it was Richard's smug expression. But I'd had enough. "Why do you always do this?" I turned to Mom, my voice shaking. "Why you always take his side? Can't you see how he treats me? How he's always treated me?" Mom shifted my brother to her other hip, looking uncomfortable. "Chloe, you're being dramatic. Richard just likes to joke around. You've always been too sensitive." "Joke around." I let out a bitter laugh. "Is that what you call constant mockery? The comments about my weight, my clothes, my life. He hates me, Mom. He's always hated me, and you've never once stood up for me." Richard stepped forward, that insufferable grin still on his face. Now, Chloe, let's not turn this into one of your teenage tantrums." "Shut up." My hands were trembling as I pulled out my phone. "You don't get to talk anymore." I pulled up the first photo and held it up to his face. The effect was immediate. All the color drained from his cheeks. "What's that?" Mom asked, peering at the screen. "Richard, what's wrong?" "Would you like to explain to Mom what kind of business trips you've been taking?" I swiped to the next photo, the one of him with his other son. "Or maybe you'd like to tell her about your fiancé. You know, your boss at Richmond Technologies, the one you have a child with." Mom's mouth fell open. The room was so quiet I could hear the tick of the wall clock. That's not. Richard stammered, his smirk finally gone. Not what? Not your son in these photos. Not you kissing Catherine Morrison. Not your engagement announcement from 2 weeks ago. I turned to Mom. He's been living a double life for years, Mom. All those business trips. He's been with his other family, his other son, planning his wedding to another woman who has no idea he's already married. You're lying, Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I wish I was. He's been cheating on you with his boss. They have a 3-year-old son together. She thinks he's single. That they're going to get married. Stop it. Mom's scream made my brother start crying. Stop these horrible lies. How dare you? How dare you make up such disgusting stories about Richard? Mom, I have proof. Look at the photos. Look at the dates. Look at. I don't want to look at anything. You've always hated Richard. You've always tried to come between us. You're just jealous because he's a better father to your brother than your own father ever was to you. Her words hit me like a slap. I stood there stunned as she stormed to the front door, yanked it open, and threw my backpack onto the front lawn. Get out. She was crying now, her face red with anger. Get out of our house. I don't want to hear any more of your lies. I walked toward the door, my legs feeling like lead. As I passed Richard, I saw his smile had returned, bigger than ever. He leaned close as I passed, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Your mother will always believe me over you, Chloe. Remember that. I spent the entire train ride back to campus in a daze, my mother's words echoing in my head. The next morning, after a sleepless night, I opened my laptop and navigated to Catherine Morrison's social media profile. My cursor hovered over the message button for a long moment before I finally clicked. Miss Morrison, I have some important information about your fiancé that you need to know. Would you be willing to meet in person? Her response came within an hour. Regarding Richard, of course. Is everything okay? We agreed to meet at the Daily Grind, her suggestion, ironically enough. She had no idea I worked there, that I'd first discovered her existence in that very cafe. I arrived early for my shift, changed into my uniform, and waited. At exactly 2:00 p.m., Catherine Morrison walked through the door. Catherine? I approached her table. I'm Chloe. Her smile was genuine, warm even. Please, sit down. You seemed concerned in your message. What's this about Richard? I took a deep breath. Before I show you something, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I really am. Her smile faltered. Sorry about what? I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. This is my mother, I said, showing her a recent family photo. And this is her husband, Richard, my stepfather. Catherine stared at the photo, her perfectly manicured hand frozen halfway to her coffee cup. I don't understand. He's been married to my mom for years. They have a 2-year-old son together, my little brother. I swiped to another photo. This was taken at Christmas. No, she shook her head. No, that's impossible. Richard isn't married. He told me he's never been married. We're getting married in the spring. We have a son. I know about your son, I said gently. And I know Richard told you he was single. He's been living a double life, husband and father in one city, fiancé and father in another. She sat quietly for a while, her coffee getting cold. All this time, she said softly. All those work trips. Is he going home to take care of his sick mother? He was heading home to his wife and his other child. She laughed in a way that showed her anger. Oh no, I really messed up. I gave him 3 promotions. He became the regional director. I believed he cared for me. I'm sorry, I said again, because I didn't know what else to say. Don't do that. She stood up straight, putting on her CEO face again. Thanks for being honest with me. I realize now he was only using me for my job and my power. She got up and collected her things. I need to make some calls now. Thanks, Chloe. Seriously. I saw her leave the cafe, her heels making a sound on the floor, her head up high. Even with everything that happened, I felt she was stronger than my mom. She might have to accept the truth. A week after I met Catherine, my phone rang. It was Mom, and before I could say anything, she was yelling. Are you feeling happy now? Her voice was really loud, so I had to keep the phone away from my ear. Are you happy now? You messed up everything. Mom, what is it? He got fired. That woman, his boss, she made him lose his job. They checked all his work and found some problems. They are giving him a big fine of thousands of dollars. His job is done. She was crying now, her words coming out with shaky breaths. No good company will hire him again, and it's all because of you. I sat on my dorm room bed, feeling my legs get weak all of a sudden. Mom, he was not being honest with you. He had another family and a child. He was going to marry her. You don't get it at all. She stopped talking to me. He's the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. The greatest dad your brother could ask for. How can you try to ruin that? He was taking advantage of both of you. You and Catherine. He was just using everyone for his own gain. Can't you see that? Don't say things like that about him. Her voice became very cold. You shouldn't judge the man I love more than anything else in this world. Mom, please. I don't have a daughter. The words came out quickly. In my opinion, you are no longer a part of my life. The call ended. I sat there for a long time, looking at my phone, with tears falling down my face. Jenny saw me like that when she returned from class. Wow, Chloe, what's going on? I shared all my thoughts with her. She hugged me while I cried, made me tea, and helped me call Dad. He and Sarah came over that night just to see how I was doing. You did the right thing, Sarah kept saying, holding my hand. Sometimes doing the right thing feels really painful, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong choice. 1 year has gone by since that time. I'm still at Marshall University, doing well in my classes and working at the cafe. Dad and Sarah had a little wedding by the lake. It was lovely, and I was the maid of honor. Sarah is going to have a baby now. I will have a little sister soon. I get updates about Mom and Richard from friends we both know back home. He didn't get another corporate job. People started talking about the audit results. He began to drink a lot and get into fights at bars. Mom needed to find a job at the nearby supermarket to help take care of them. My little brother goes to daycare now because they can't pay for a nanny like before. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I think about whether I should feel bad. If I had stayed quiet, maybe everyone would be happier. Mom would still be happy not knowing. Richard would still keep his job. My brother would have a better home. But then I think about Richard's smile when Mom kicked me out. He spoke softly. Your mom will always trust me more than you. I think back to all the years of his quiet unkindness, his control. He turned everything around to make me feel little. No, I don't feel bad for them. Sometimes that's just how the truth is. It doesn't think about being easy or cozy. It simply is. Richard made his life based on untruths, and when those untruths fell apart, he could only point the finger at himself.